I'm struck by a few things, just observing some of the recent happenings. I'm struck by a few things. You know, when the first demonstration was stopped by this court action, you know what the young people did? Immediately, they took to
Social media.
social media
That's right.
in order to express themselves.
Yeah.
And social media is a very powerful tool these days. We've seen how the Arab Spring and so on,
That's right.
you know, was really orchestrated in part by people sharing stories across social media and so on and so forth. Even in those earlier days when social media may not have been as powerful a force as they are today. So my simple observation is that even that process of trying to stop them actually galvanized the movement.
That's right.
Now, I read recently that the Supreme Court had set aside the High Court's decision, but then the very next day, the police are back in court trying to, you know, claim another decision to stop the process. As I said, it's difficult to stop these processes just by, you know, this kind of negative reaction to try to ban the expression that people are giving to their frustrations and their sense of things not being wrong, not being done right, things going wrong. So I think the answer should be to heed the call to fix the country.
Heed the call to fix the country.
Yes. Because heeding that call would enable you to demonstrate that you are responding in a constructive way. Because, you know, some of the things that are being, attention is being drawn to, are not mysteries to us.
Absolutely.
The issues about corruption, you know, the issues we hear about day and night. A young person is shown in the media flaunting, you know, thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars because he happens to be close to a certain position of power. Or young people who have occupied a certain position for barely 3 or 4 years. They have, you know, a lot of houses, real estate, you know. You see, if these things happen, people will get to know about them. And these are the things that, you know, infuriate young people. Now, I'm not saying young people themselves don't have issues that they need to address in the sense of what their contribution should be. I think, you know, some young people have also deviated from the straight and narrow, and, you know, they are part of the corrupt system.
Some people actually question whether the young people in politics now give us an assurance of how the future will be.
Well, you know,
in the kind of politics.
Yes, I hear some of that skepticism, but I'll tell you what, I still have a lot of confidence in young people for two reasons. You see, those examples of individuals who go astray and so on, I think the reason why we see some of those individuals, you know, going the way that they go is because some of them see themselves just in terms of their individual, you know, power position, which they think they've acquired because, you know, they did work for the party to come to power, so they deserve you know, be compensated and so on. And so they're doing it as individuals. But I think what we're seeing currently is about young people as a movement.
That's right.
And that are going to say, look, as a movement trying to fix the country, we should check each other's, you know, role, each other's responsibility. We should hold each other accountable. That's what I'm hearing from this movement that is growing in the country. And that's what gives me a lot of comfort. But the second reason why I still have a lot of confidence in young people is really a simple biological reason. You know, when I was in Legon, in the days that I was describing to you, when in the 70s, I was barely in my 20s. Part of my eagerness, part of my urgency about things changing was because when I looked at the fact that I have many more years that I can anticipate to be alive ahead of me.
That's right.
Some of the people in leadership, you know, they're pretty old and they have fewer years, so they have less at stake, you know, than what I have. So for me, when I look at young people today, I know that part of their sense of urgency is because they have many decades ahead of them where if things continue to go downhill, they have a lot to lose. So they'd better stop the tide of decline and ensure that things change, things get fixed so that those decades ahead are more comfortable for them than they would have been. So from a sheer biological perspective, I think young people just have so much at stake that they cannot afford to let, you know, the rot continue, you know. And I think that is what gives a sense of urgency. And that is what also gives me a certain hopefulness that they will indeed, you know, be not just persistent, but they will also be insistent on holding each other accountable, such that this movement really leads to a reversal of direction of the country. It enables the country to move forward. And that's why I explained that when I go back to the 70s and how things crystallized around, in that context, it was around Jerry Rawlings, but I mean, you know, times are different now. So, you know, there will be other people, and they don't have to be military people. In fact, these are all young civilians, you know. And so what gives me a certain hopeful outlook about what's happening now is not just that the young people are persistent in their call on leaders to fix the country, but I believe they're also insistent on themselves being accountable for the future. In other words, they are looking to build a new future in which they have a stake in. They have a large stake in it. They have young children, you know, who are also going to grow into that future. So they have a vision that they are trying to construct of the country. And I think that with the combination of their own accountability to each other and to themselves as a movement for what the state of the country is going to be, and with their determined drive to have the things that need to be fixed, I think it gives hope for the future.